Good day everyone! Welcome sa panibago nating tutorial series. So this is Information Assurance and Security 2 series, and for today we are going to talk about network security concerns and attacks. Organizations from each and every corner of the world need to take external as well as internal cyber attacks. Fortunately, there are cybersecurity strategies to defend each type of cybercrime, which will be discussed in this video. But before that, let us take a quick look at what is internal and external cyber threat. External cyber attack. As per the cloud survey results, it is found that in the majority of cases, external web crimes take place for stealing the core business content. Attacks like Trojan, worms, phishing, horse viruses, etc. are carried away to gain access to the target PC. Few groups of cybercrime like Anonymous perform attacks on the government bodies and organizations. The perspective of this type of group is to teach a moral lesson or take some kind of revenge from the target. Well, it might be possible that your industry is not under the category of anonymous crime, but it is still under the target of individual hackers. In several cases, the main target of external attacks is disclosing or stealing customers' records. It is so because this activity results in leakage of an individual's personal information that is having a price tag on the dark web. Internal cyber attack is a threat that originates inside the industry, institute, or government firms and causes exploitation due to dissatisfaction in a promotion or sudden termination of an employee. This type of threat is after the employee's complaints regarding their mind thoughts towards the place where they work. Since the workstation staff is allowed to access business content, it means the huge data breach might occur when negative thoughts take birth in one's mind. In a large or medium business, it is not possible to read everyone's mindset and work according to that. So it is better to adopt cloud security measures that provide unbreakable protection from internal threats. These insider cyber attack protection approaches should at least involve auditing of activities that are carried away with business core information. Rest, you can also contact managed security service providers who provide smart tips and solutions for safeguarding internal attacks in cybersecurity. Okay, so we have here passive and active network security attacks. Passive attacks are wiretapping, port scan, idle scan, encryption, traffic analysis, information gathering, and for active attacks are malware attacks, eavesdropping, data modification, DOS and DDoS attack, DNS spoofing, man-in-the-middle, ARP poisoning, and for the last is VLAN hacking. Let's discuss first the passive network attacks. Wiretapping fraud and other forms of illegal surveillance may sound like things that only happen in the movies, but they are very real problems that affect small businesses every day. Wiretapping is a technique of observing and analyzing the flow of data in a network in an active or passive mode. The attack can perform denial of service attack by executing wiretapping, and it is also the surreptitious monitoring of the communication media electronically such as telephone, cellular, and internet-based communication. Gathering information is the first step where a hacker tries to get information about the target, and hackers use different sources and tools to get more information, and these informations will be useful for you to become an ethical hacker where the penetration testers or hackers, both black hat or white hat, perform this stage. This is a necessary and crucial step to be performed. The more information gathered about the target, the more the probability to obtain relevant results. Information gathering is not just a piece of security testing, it is an art that every penetration tester or pen tester and hackers should master for a better experience in penetration testing. And there are various tools, techniques, and websites, including public sources such as Whois, NSLookup, that can help hackers gather information. This step is necessary because you may need any information such as his pet name, best friend's name, age, or phone number to perform password guessing attack, or other kinds of attacks while performing attacks on any target. Okay, so port scanning is one of the most popular techniques attackers use to discover services that they can exploit to break into systems. Although port scanning is inherently hostile, it is often the first step of reconnaissance used by hackers when trying to infiltrate a network or destroy and steal sensitive data. And to conduct a port scan, one must first have a list of active hosts. A network scan is the process of discovering all the active hosts on a network and mapping those hosts to their IP addresses. With a list of active hosts, a port scan the process of sending packets to specific ports on a host and analyzing the responses to learn details about its running services or identify potential vulnerabilities that can be conducted. Idle scan is a TCP-based port scan where the attacker sends spoof packets to a passive victim host, also called as silent. With the term passive, we mean here that the incoming or outgoing traffic of the victim host is very low. An idle scan, also known as a zombie scan. Zombie scan is used by hackers to scan transmission control protocol or TCP ports in an attempt to map the victim systems and find out its vulnerabilities. This attack is one of the most sophisticated hacker techniques because the hacker is not identified through his or her real computer but through a controlled zombie computer that masks the hacker's digital location. Most administrators just block the internet protocol or the IP address of the hacker, but since this address belongs to the zombie computer and not the hacker's real computer, this does not resolve the issue. After performing the idle scan, the scan will show a port is either open, closed, or blocked, and the hacker will know where to start an attack. Encryption is designed to protect your data, but encryption can also be used against you. For instance, targeted ransomware is a cybercrime that can impact organizations of all sizes, including government offices. Ransomware can also target individual computer users, and attackers deploy ransomware to attempt to encrypt various devices, including computers and servers. The attackers often demand a ransom before they provide the key to decrypt the encrypted data. Ransomware attacks against government agencies can shut down services, making it hard to get a permit or pay a tax bill, for instance. Targeted attacks are often aimed at large organizations, but ransomware attacks can also happen to you. So next, let's discuss about active network attacks. Malware is a catch-all term for any type of malicious software designed to harm or exploit any programmable device, service, or network. Cybercriminals typically use it to extract data that they can leverage over victims for financial gain, to healthcare records, to personal emails and passwords. The possibilities of what sort of information can be compromised even become endless. Since its birth more than 30 years ago, malware has found several methods of attack. They include email attachment, malicious advertisements on popular sites, also known as malvertising, fake software installations or the pirated software or the cracked version of the software, infected USB drives, infected apps, phishing emails, and even text messages. A virus usually comes as attachment in an email that holds a virus payload or the part of the malware that performs the malicious actions. Once the victim opens the file, the device is infected. Worms have the ability to copy themselves from machine to machine, usually by exploiting some sort of security weakness in a software or operating system and don't require user interaction to function. Trojans masquerade as harmless applications, tricking users into downloading and using them. Once up and running, they can steal personal data, crash a device, spy on activities, or even launch an attack. Malware authors use rootkits to hide malware on your device, allowing malware to persist as long as possible. A successful rootkit can potentially remain in place for years if it is undetected. During this time, it will steal information and resources. Spyware is a type of malware that tries to keep itself hidden while it secretly records information and tracks your online activities on your computers or mobile devices. It can monitor and copy everything you enter, upload, download, and store. Then we have Keylogger. Keylogger is a simple keystroke logger for Windows, Mac, and Linux. A keystroke logger or keylogger is basically a program that records keystrokes and saves them in a log file on your local computer. This keylogger is simple and bare bones but works wonderfully and useful for a number of things. One of the most profitable and therefore one of the most popular types of malware among cybercriminals is ransomware. This malware installs itself onto a victim's machine, encrypts their files, and then turns around and demands a ransom, usually in Bitcoin, to return the data to the user. Next, we have eavesdropping. The term eavesdropping is used to refer to the interception of communication between two parties by a malicious third party. Since the beginning of the digital age, the term has also come to hold great significance in the world of cybersecurity. Hackers are constantly coming up with new ways to eavesdrop on digital conversations. Voice over IP calls, which are made using IP-based communication, are recorded with the help of protocol analyzers. The data can be converted into audio files to be analyzed by the hacker. Another popular eavesdropping method is data sniffing. This technique works well on local networks which make use of hub since all the communications within the network are sent to all the ports of the network. All a sniffer has to do is choose to accept every bit of incoming data, even though they were not the intended recipients. Wireless networking data can be similarly manipulated if the broadcast unsecured information to all the network ports. Taking a step back from digital crime, the simple act of listening to two people talk in the real world using microphones and recorders can be often lead to the gain of personal information. Phones can be hacked into by remotely activating the device's speaker function. The same can be done to laptops where microphones are switched on discreetly to listen on the owner. Let me clarify that there is difference between data manipulation and data modification. Data manipulation is typically taking information and applying logic or calculations to it to produce a result set of data different from the original. Data modification occurs when a saved or stored value in a computer is changed to different value. So, if data is manipulated then stored in the same place, it is modified. Data modification attack is an active attack. It is based on interception of exchanged data. This data can be modified and deleted in order to alter the comprehension of the message and to prevent information arriving at the receivers. The denial of service or DOS attack is an attempt by hackers to make a network resource unavailable. It usually interrupts the host, temporarily or definitely, which is connected to the internet. These attacks typically target services hosted on mission-critical web servers such as banks, credit card payment gateways. A distributed denials of service or DDoS attack is an attempt to make an online service or a website unavailable by overloading it with huge floods of traffic generated from multiple sources. Unlike a denial of service attack in which one computer and one internet connection is used to flood a targeted resources with packets. A DDoS attack uses many computers and many internet connections, often distributed globally in what is referred to as a botnet. A large-scale volumetric DDoS attack can generate a traffic measured in tens of gigabytes and even hundreds of gigabytes per second. Spoofing is a cybercrime that happens when someone impersonates a trusted contact or brand, pretending to be someone you trust in order to access sensitive personal information. Spoofing attacks can copy and exploit the identity of your contacts, the look of well-known brands, or the addresses of the trusted websites. Successful attacks on organizations can lead to infected computer systems and networks, data breaches, and loss of revenue, all liable to affect the organization's public reputation. In addition, spoofing that leads to the rerouting of internet traffic can overwhelm networks or lead customers to malicious sites aimed at stealing information or distributing malware. A man-in-the-middle attack requires three players. There is the victim, the entity with which the victim is trying to communicate, and the man in the middle, who's intercepting the victim's communications. Critical to the scenario is that the victim isn't aware of the man in the middle. Cybercriminals typically execute a man in the middle attack into two phases. The first phase is interruption, and the second phase is decryption. With a traditional man-in-the-middle attack, the cybercriminal needs to gain access to an unsecured or poorly secured Wi-Fi router. This type of connections are generally found in public areas with free Wi-Fi hotspots and even in some people's home. If they haven't protected their network, attackers can scan the router looking for specific vulnerabilities such as weak password. Once attackers find a vulnerable router, they can deploy tools to interrupt and read the victim's transmitted data. The attacker can also insert their tools between the victim's computer and the websites the user visits to capture a login credentials, banking information, and other personal information. Virtual LAN hacking attack is a type of network attack in which an attacker tries to gain access to a virtual LAN network by sending packets through another VLAN network which the attacker is connected. In this kind of attack, the attacker maliciously tries to gain access to the traffic coming from the VLANs in a network or can send traffic to another VLANs in that network, to which he has no legal access. In most cases, the attacker only exploits two layers that segment various hosts. So next, let's talk about password-based attack. And we have two types of password-based attack, which is non-technical and technical password attack. But let's discuss first the non-technical password attack. The term dumpster diving is used to refer to looking through discarded items from the organizations to get additional information. A malicious actor does not necessarily have to go through a literal dumpster to find information discarded by the organization, but it is a good place to start. The term dumpster diving was made back when paper records were more prevalent. So some organizations may not be as concerned about securing their trash now that their records are electronic. This is a mistake because many users still need paper from their job and there are other items which information in them that cloud thrown away. Basically, there are two types of social engineering. The first type bases its techniques on human interaction to exploit vulnerabilities or weaknesses and getting access to the sensitive data through them. The second type bases on our interactions with the internet through computing devices. But let's go deeper in each of them. First is social engineering based on people. They understand and apply physiological and motivational theories to move complex feelings, compassion, need to belong to the group, to make the targets to lower their defenses and deliver the information they want without even realizing it. Same, they know that all humans basically share the same fears, weaknesses, and needs, and all of them get reflected in our interactions on the web. So they can take advantage of all these aspects to impersonate a coworker, boss, or some authority to offer products or services oriented to attack our most precious assets. And the second is social engineering based on web interactions. Following the most common use of social engineering based on web interactions is phishing or whaling, also known as identity theft. As sophisticated as social engineering based on people, this other variant uses email and fraudulent websites to obtain sensitive data. Social engineers now wearing gray or black hats successfully copy the institutional communication features, and they are also good at usually pass the initial filters to completely deceive the final users. In other words, social engineering based on web interaction aimed at undermining the digital security of enterprises, and they usually accomplish their objective converting the attempts in particularly damaging and successful attacks. Shoulder surfing occurs when someone watches over your shoulder to nab a valuable information such as your password, ATM PIN, or credit card number as you key it into an electric device. When the snoop uses your information or financial gain, the activity becomes identity theft. Password guessing is the process of attempting to gain access to a system through the systematic guessing of passwords to log in on the target system. It will generally create voluminous amounts of bot network traffic when conducted remotely and system logs. A dictionary attack is a type of brute force cyber attack where hackers use a predefined list of words to crack your password. Some dictionary attacks try commonly used passwords, phrases, or combinations while others check the whole dictionary. 123456, QWERTY, I love you, password, and admin are among the most common passwords shared by millions of users around the world. If you have this kind of combination of passwords, change it immediately. Otherwise, hackers can crack it in a snap. A brute force is a type of cyber attack that uses trial and error methods to guess login credentials, security keys, or other sensitive information. Brute force attacks are surprisingly effective, especially given that about 65% of people reuse passwords. Reusing passwords is a dangerous and common practice, and one compromised password is all it takes to expose an entire system or a group of credentials. So let's proceed to network security vulnerabilities. So here are some of the common network security vulnerabilities: missing patches or unpatched operating system and software. Unpatched software enables attackers to take control over computers remotely through their internet connection by taking advantage of flaws that can be exploited with special code even a user is connected to a website functioning. These are usually due to a lack of software security practices from coders during the product of development lifecycle. BOD, or bring your own device to work, has become a popular trend in the workplace. It is estimated that nearly two-thirds of employers allow employees to use their own smartphones, tablets, and laptops for personal and business purposes. However, this new trend also brings with it many security risks as well. Mobile devices now make up an integral part of our lives but are not secure enough to be used at work without putting your company network's data subjects at risk. Misconfigured firewalls. When you expose your internal networks to the internet, you allow cybercriminals easy to access to monitor your traffic, steal your sensitive data, or compromise your networks by bypassing security controls. When you have firewall active on your computer, they act as a network security line between your internal and internet connections. The firewall will monitor the traffic coming in and leaving out of your systems to decide if it is needs to block or allow the traffic using a set of rules. If these rules are not correctly configured, your firewall may not block threat as they should. As a result, will expose you and make you vulnerable to attack. Wireless technology allows people to connect immediately, provided they are around the proximity area of your network. Wireless APs usually attracts attacks from special criminals called ward drivers. These people go around in vehicles seeking to exploit Wi-Fi networks that are left without network security. These ward drivers use their access systems and provide gaining access to a sensitive information. USB thumb drivers are commonly used today, and unfortunately, they are one of the most popular ways to infect a network from the firewall. Criminal elements prefer this method for many reasons, including that flash drives are affordable and can store large amounts of information. More importantly, people use these drivers to extract sensitive data between different computers. Ayan. So that's it for this video, and hoping na may natutunan kayo about introduction of Information Assurance Security 2. At kung may mga katanungan kayo, contact nyo lang ako through email or chat. Okay? So see you on the next video.